Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, the Motor City Madmouth, and glad to have Mel Farr back on for his usual spot here on Thursday. How you doing, Mel?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Scott?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And Xavier McKnight joins you. We have a rotating situation. Xavier gets to talk to Mel. How you doing? Been a while since you've been on the Sports Exchange, right, Xavier? But we kept you busy.
Yes, it has. And as always, it's a great honor and privilege and pleasure of mine to always be on any of the shows that we have here on the WSAN network, but especially the Sports Exchange, because this is where I began to build my name on this network, and it'll always have a special place in my heart. And I'm ready to get down to breaking down some great content tonight. So we hope everybody's ready for the heat that we're dishing out in the kitchen.
Yeah, just so you know, Mel, Xavier McKnight has run the gamut. You know, just so you know, he has his own show called The Real and the Rare. And some of the subjects that he comes up with are unbelievable, you know, but they're really good. He puts a lot of thought and research into them. This week he made his debut on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. And, of course, we can't forget the Sports Exchanges where we all started this whole thing. So it's really pretty good stuff. So with that said, okay, we're going to be talking Mel's favorite sport, the one that he played all too well, football. And we're going to lead it off with some Patrick Mahomes. Go ahead, Xavier. What do you want to ask Mel?
Well, first I want to ask Mel what his reaction was when he first learned about Patrick Mahomes receiving a 10-year deal for what we were told was initially $450 million. But just a few hours later, it turned out that the deal was actually for a little more than $500 million. To be exact, it was $503 million. And I'm not surprised that he got the money. Well, I'm not surprised that he got the years. He's worth the years, and I'm not saying he's not worth the money either. It's just the first sport that I thought I was going to see a $500 million contract issued in was the MLB, because we see the MLB giving out huge deals all the time to their superstar players, north of $300 million, $350 million. We saw the first $400 million deal this year, I believe, with Mike Trout. So I was really surprised to see that this is where where an NFL team went with this. But hey, you know what? More power to Patrick Mahomes. He is worth every single penny of that money.
Yeah, I think that everybody kind of assumed he was going to get north of $400 million. When you look at it, the numbers are, they're eye popping. But once you go into the contract, the one thing about NFL contracts versus MLB contracts or NBA contracts, NFL contracts aren't guaranteed, so that's a lot of fluff. So you have to really dig into it to really try to understand what he truly is getting. And to me, this is just me, I know he did it seems to be a team-friendly deal that allows them some flexibility to be able to keep other players. But my opinion is the salary cap is the owner's problem. They want the salary cap anyway. They're the ones that wanted the salary cap. So managing that salary cap is their problem, not my problem as a player. My job as a player is to get as much money as I possibly can. He's already gotten the Super Bowl, so I understand he's wanting to play maybe to create a dynasty, but there's no guarantees in that. What is guaranteed is what you can get. And I thought he left a lot of money on the table. That's just my opinion, especially when you talk about the guaranteed money. I mean, it's not the signing bonus. I think it was only like $10 million or something like that he got to sign, which isn't any money. I think it's a very, very team-friendly deal. I think he did himself a disservice and future players a disservice with the contract that he signed. Deshaun Watson is going to be coming up here pretty soon. Next year, the boy over there at Baltimore, he's going to be looking for a contract. Obviously, Dak Prescott's looking for a contract, and he's doing the right thing. He's holding the Cowboys' feet to the fire. He's trying to get the maximum amount of money for Dak Prescott. That's what he's supposed to do. The salary cap is not his problem. That's the team's problem. It's their job to manage that. His job is to get as much money as he possibly can.
Yeah, you're definitely right, Mel. Lamar Jackson's going to get his money at some point, for sure. Go ahead,
well, Mel, I definitely agree with you on those sentiments 100%. I mean, we say it all the time. Athletes in the sports, they are always going to more than likely be underpaid for the service that it is that they provide. Because no matter the amount of money that they are signed to a contract, it will never equal the amount of money and revenues that they bring into a team and an organization. So no doubt about that. But it's just, I just never thought I would ever see a deal like this in the NFL. Once again, the 10 years doesn't surprise me. They wanted to lock him up long term. But the amount of money that I saw on the deal, it just kind of surprised me. But I'll ask you this. Don't you believe that at least halfway through this deal, they're going to go in and renegotiate this deal again anyway, just because of where the salary cap is more than likely going to be, where the TV money is going to be, and he's going to get paid more money than this going forward, even halfway through this deal.
Yeah, he's never going to see the end of this contract. He's still got 2 years left on his rookie deal. He's got his fourth year, and then he's got the team option that he still has to play out. So this deal doesn't start really into 2 years. I mean, what he's getting, whatever he got to sign, that's what he's going to get. I know they got some guarantees in there triggered. You know, if he plays this year, then 2 years down the road, his salary becomes guaranteed and stuff like that. It did some kind of tricky things as far as being able to guarantee money. But as far as what he got guaranteed to sign, that wasn't enough money. And, he's never going to see the end of this contract. That's why I say with NFL contracts, it's an eye-popping number, but it's not real money. It's like monopoly money. He probably won't even see half of this contract, half of the money in this contract. He probably won't even see half of it. He'll probably see, I would guess he'll probably see maybe about $150 million of this contract probably.
I definitely agree with you on that right there, because we know that he's not going to get the full $503 million guarantee. He should, but he's not going to. We know he's not going to get that money, unfortunately, because he's definitely worth every single penny of it. At least right now, he's worth every single penny of it. He's going into his fourth year in the league, even though this is being counted as his third in the eyes of many people. Because his rookie season, he sat behind Alex Smith, learning from a veteran, learning how to be a pro, and we saw him appear in one game, the very last game of that 2017 season. Then we saw him come in 2018, and he absolutely shook the NFL up. 50 touchdowns, an MVP season. Last year, the touchdown numbers came down a bit, but he was injured for a few games throughout the season. But more importantly than that, he was able to lead the Kansas City Chiefs to a Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl in 50 years. So he's definitely proven himself to be worth the money that it is that he's going to get, and he's definitely worth a lot more than he's ever going to sign for. That's one thing that we know and we understand. But my next question to you is, who do you believe will be the next quarterback that we see get paid?
Probably Deshaun Watson is probably the next one to get paid. I don't think he's going to get Patrick Mahomes type money, but I'm sure he's going to be looking for that type of money. But I don't think he's going to get that kind of money. I mean, Deshaun he's a nice quarterback, but he's definitely not, in the same league as Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I like him. I mean, he's a franchise quarterback. There's no question about it. He'll probably get a contract that's going to be probably somewhere around $400 million. I would say between $400 and $450. It's going to be below Patrick Mahomes, but it's going to be up there. But I think he's the next one in line, and he deserves it too. Playing for that team down there with Bill O'Brien, it's been tough for him. I mean, he's had to play hurt. He's taken a lot of hits down there, but he has performed very, very well, and he's very deserving of the contract.
Well, I definitely agree with you on that as well, and I do believe he'll be the next person to get paid. But I want Scott to chime in on this next question I'm going to ask too.
Sure.
Do you actually believe he's going to get paid in Houston? Because I could see a scenario where Deshaun Watson doesn't end up staying with the Texans. You brought up the Bill O'Brien factor. I don't care what he comes out and says on social media. I don't care about him coming out on Twitter and Instagram and defending his coach. He can't love the fact that DeAndre Hopkins was traded. He can't love the fact that they have not done a very good job of securing offensive line protection for him throughout his tenure since he's been in Houston. And Laramie Tunsil is a step forward, but it doesn't really get much better after that. And teams will find a way, if he is available, to get him to come into their organizations. One in particular where I could see one playing out is the Chicago Bears. They're an interesting factor there for me. maybe even the Dallas Cowboys, depending on how this Dak Prescott saga plays out. Because I believe Deshaun Watson's definitely going to get his money too. I'm just not convinced it's going to happen in Houston.
All right, here's what I think about that. If for some reason or another those trades work out and these wide receivers turn out well, then that might probably give them a little reprieve. You know what I mean? If they have productivity out of that group, or they're able to land another wide receiver by the end of time for his contract to come up. Do you follow me? That, to me, might be one thing that would keep him there. And number two, okay, he's going to probably play under the franchise tag 1 or 2 years if they don't line up with a long-term contract. In the NFL, you don't get complete freedom for a while. You know, I mean, Kirk Cousins messed the way he handled that franchise tag in Washington led him to guaranteed money out in Minnesota. So there's a couple of factors that will keep Deshaun Watson in Houston. But a lot of it's going to depend on the weapons that he has and what direction. Right, Mel?
Well, I mean, you trade him, okay, then what are you going to replace him with?
Right.
That's what I always said. For Dallas to go after him, they have to really like him, because what they would have to give up to get him. Yeah, he's probably going to be 3 first-round draft picks they'd have to give up. Well, why would you do that when you can win with that?
Right.
You know, Dak's, he's a perfect quarterback for the type of offense that they ran. I don't know what kind of offense they're going to have in there with Mike McCarthy now. I don't know if it's going to be different, but a run-oriented offense, he's the perfect guy for that offense. So and then anywhere else, you said the Chicago Bears, still have to give up a lot. And, if they wanted to do something, they could have got Cam this year. Cam was available, but they traded for Nick Foles in his contract.
Right.
So I don't know what Chicago's doing.
Mel,
I don't know what's on their mind.
Yeah, Mel, I don't see a fit with Deshaun Watson with the Bears. I don't know why. Am I losing my mind or what? That just doesn't seem right to me. Does it seem right to you? With the Bears?
I think Deshaun Watson can fit anywhere. I think he's a plug and play kind of guy.
Right.
I think he can fit anywhere. I mean, I think he's that kind of quarterback. I think he's a very, very talented quarterback. The Bears just, I don't know. I haven't been, I've never been real high on Trubisky.
Right.
And so maybe maybe we can't see what it is that they're trying to do up there offensively because of his inability to be able to do what Matt LaFleur is asking him to do, or what LaFleur, their head coach, is asking him to do. Maybe he's not capable of doing it.
Right.
I don't think he has much confidence. I wasn't very high on him in the beginning, and my opinion of him has not changed on Trubisky. So, I'm not really impressed with what they're doing up there offensively right now. Offensively right now, they're not very good, and maybe it's just because of the guy they have behind the center that they're not very good.
Yeah, my thing is I can't see the Bears spending that much money on a quarterback. That's my issue, Mel, on a guy of Deshaun Watson's caliber. That's always been what I've thought. They don't spend mega money. They don't, at least not that I've ever seen. Correct me wrong. There's always a first time.
They spend money on Khalil Mack.
Right. Okay, but they did. But who else? On a quarterback?
Not many other people.
Yeah, no.
Not many people.
I mean, you got to understand, you're talking about the Hallis family and the McCaskey family. Don't worry. I'm not saying they won't spend money. Don't get me wrong, okay? But would they spend that kind of money? I would think the price tag for a guy like Khalil Mack would be a heck of a lot lower than it is for a marquee quarterback like Deshaun Watson. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I mean, I've been proven wrong before. Anybody wants to prove me wrong before, I'll eat humble pie. I have no problem with it. But the Bears spending mega money on a quarterback for some reason or another, that just doesn't seem to work. Remember, they won a Super Bowl with Jim McMahon at quarterback. They got to a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman, right? But they didn't win it, but they got there with them. They've
always got there with their defense.
Right, exactly. That's where I was going with this. The Bears are always known for having an incredible defense, going back to the day where obviously Dick Butkus was there. Your dad was on the wrong end of probably a few of Dick Butkus's tackles, right? And growing up in the Midwest, we know what the Bears defense, you know, they're the monsters of the Midway for a reason, right? Not because they're masters of the masters, obviously under center. So, I mean, but that's you bring up some interesting points. I just don't see the Bears going after him. Go ahead, Xavier. Just let me get that in there.
Well, Scott, I'll go ahead and I'll tell you my main reason for bringing up Chicago as probably my number one fit for Deshaun Watson if it doesn't work out in Houston.
Okay.
I'm looking at Matt Nagy, and I'm looking at that playbook. I'm looking at the style of offense that Chicago runs. When I go back and I look at how Mitchell Trubisky was playing in that offense in 2018, it almost fits exactly to the style of play that Deshaun Watson is as a quarterback. A dual threat type of system, a quarterback who can scramble out of the pocket as well as get it done with his arm. And if I was to give Matt Nagy, Deshaun Watson over Mitchell Trubisky, there are going to be great things happening in the Windy City. They're going to be amongst that caliber of being right there on the cusp of possibly being one of those teams that compete for a Super Bowl. Now, to bring up your point about them not spending mega dollars on quarterbacks, we saw them do that one time before. And it happened in the previous decade, and it may be the only thing that may be a cause to pause on this whole thing. They gave Jay Cutler a huge contract extension, and that may be the only thing that may be a cause to pause for them because of how that Jay Cutler deal worked out. It ultimately didn't work out. But with that being said, Deshaun Watson has done nothing in his career thus far to make me even put him in the same category as Jay Cutler, because Deshaun Watson actually appears to do something that Jay Cutler did not appear to do. He actually cares about the game. He cares about winning and losing. It's not just about the money for him. For God's sake, the only time we ever saw Jay Cutler smile in Chicago was when he was signing that huge contract extension.
All right. But with that said, okay, and Mel, you played the game, right? What do you think the average lifespan is of a dual threat quarterback? All we need to do is look at Randall Cunningham, right? How did that work out? Fine quarterback, don't get me wrong. And, you know, RG3 and the list goes on and on. Dual threat quarterbacks, what is their shelf life by the time Deshaun Watson gets over to Soldier Field?
Well, I mean, Deshaun can throw the football. That's the one thing. He's a thrower that's athletic, that can also run, buy himself some time. He's not like Lamar Jackson. Those are two different types of quarterbacks.
Right.
Mitchell Trubisky runs because he can't throw, or he doesn't have confidence in his throwing ability. So they're using the skill set that he has because, you know, they spent that draft capital on him, so they might as well, you know, try to get something out of him because he's not going to be there. They didn't pick up his fifth year, I don't believe, so he's not going to be there after this year. So they're just trying to get out of them whatever it is that they can. You know, we talk about it. You know, first round draft picks, it takes a long time to prove that they can't play.
Right.
Low round draft pick or free agent, it takes them a long time to prove that they can play. They're still, you know, Mitchell Trubisky is still proving that he can't play.
Right.
I didn't believe he could play anyway.
Right.
But, you know, they've spent all this money on him and that draft capital on him. They're going to give him every opportunity to prove that he cannot play.
Well,
you know, that's what he is. You know, he's not confident in his throwing ability. He can run the ball a little bit, you know, and you can see, you know, that's why their offense has been the way that it's been. It's been terrible.
But I'll tell you what, Mel, Nick Foles will be your starting quarterback opening day. I believe that, especially with the Matt Nagy connection. They're spending a lot of money on Nick Foles with Jacksonville getting out from under that contract as well. That's what I think.
That's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Foles, you know, he's had his opportunities around the league. He's bounced around a little bit. Kind of got lightning in a bottle down there in Philadelphia. Everything just lined up for him real good. He had his opportunity in Jacksonville, got hurt, and ended up losing his job to a fourth or fifth round pick.
Yeah, Gardner
Minshew.
Right.
The guy from Washington State. So, and they ended up trading him away. So we'll see.
Right.
You know, we kind of got the playbook on Nick Foles. We kind of know who he is.
True. All right, Xavier, continue.
All I'm going to say about Nick Foles is I've never seen him have any success outside of the Philadelphia Eagles organization. That's all I'm going to say about Nick Foles.
I agree.
And I've seen him work with other Andy Reid assistants in other places, and it does not work. Now, could it possibly turn around with Matt Nagy? Maybe, for sure. And, of course, we wish him all the best. We don't want any of these guys to go out here and fail. But if I'm just going based off of what I've seen from him so far, my guess would tell me that it may not work out the way that some people may think it's going to work out just simply because it's Matt Nagy and he's an Andy Reid assistant. No. It may just be Nick Foles was very comfortable playing for the Philadelphia Eagles organization. That may indeed be the factor right there. I don't know that for sure, but that's just what it appears to be. Now, I'm going to give the both of you a quarterback comparison for Deshaun Watson. But it's not fair to make this comparison right now while he's in Houston playing with shambles of an offensive line minus Larry Johnson. But if I put him in Chicago with a decent offensive line, because the Bears do have a decent offensive line, and they have a number of weapons for him to throw the football to as well. And he also has a defense that can also come out there and back it up. Not saying that the Texans defense can't back it up, but J.J. Watt and some of those other guys, Whitney Merciless, they're starting to get older. And eventually that age is going to start to show. With the Chicago Bears defense, it's not just Khalil Mack. It's so many of their younger players that they drafted in the past few years that are right there, and they've come in and they've done such a great job on that team. But the quarterback comparison that I'd like to give you guys for Deshaun Watson, and you just tell me if I'm off on this. When I look at him, and when I go back and look at highlights of this person who I'm about to name, I really believe Deshaun Watson in the right system could be Steve Young. Am I off on that?
Actually, I think you're on target.
Well, I think Steve was obviously extremely athletic, and he relied on his athletic ability when he first started. When he was first playing when he was in the USFL, when he was at Tampa Bay,
right?
And he sat behind Joe Montana for a little while. I think he really learned the passing game. I think at this stage of careers, I think Deshaun is ahead of Steve Young, because I think that Deshaun understands the passing game a lot better than Steve Young did when he was 3 years in the league, and I don't think he was in the league. It might have been his first year in the league after a year or two in the USFL, and he was sitting down there in Tampa Bay. And remember, at Tampa Bay, he wasn't very good.
Right.
I remember that. He was not very good. Deshaun, his first year was very good. But, they're both athletic. I can understand what you're saying there. Both, extremely intelligent players, have the ability to escape, have the ability to make plays with their legs, have the ability to extend plays because of their mobility, but have a willingness to want to stay in the pocket too. And that's the key. They really want to stay in the pocket. So I can see that. But going back to the Chicago thing, what would you have to understand? They're going to have to give up something. What are they going to give up? They're going to mortgage their future by bringing in Deshaun. They're not going to be able to help him because they're going to have to give up at least 3 first-round draft picks to get him.
Right.
So are you willing to do that? Or, there's going to be plenty of quarterbacks available in the free agent market next year. Dak Prescott's going to be available, maybe. There's going to be other quarterbacks that are going to be available on the free agent market next year. Cam Newton's going to be available next year. So there's going to be guys available. So do you really want to mortgage your future for Deshaun Watson, or do you want to wait and see what happens in the free agent market?
Me personally, I would mortgage my future, and that leads you to the next point, Mel. Thank you. Cam Newton, right? Xavier, you want to talk about him? Why don't we segue over to Cam Newton? I think that, unless he fits in with the Belichick system and they reward him, he did take a bargain basement deal just to work in New England as well. And you also have Jameis Winston, who could very well be available too, depending on what happens in New Orleans. So but let's stick with Cam Newton, Xavier. I know that was a guy that you wanted to talk about. So we'll transition over there. Go ahead, X-Man.
So first off, let me begin by just saying congratulations to Cam Newton on landing the contract that he landed with the New England Patriots. For him, it wasn't about the amount of money. And as we know, Cam didn't get a lot of money at all. That's a story for another day. But congratulations to him on just having a chance to be able to bounce back and prove all of his doubters wrong on everything that they are saying about him. saying that he's aging, saying that he might not have it anymore, saying that he's not an elite quarterback anymore. When you put him with Belichick, you have a dynamic there that can really create something really scary there in the AFC. But with that being said, I'm not going to hold my expectations too high right now, just simply for the lack of depth in personnel and talent that it appears to be on that Patriots offense. Mel, your thoughts?
Well, I'm happy for Cam. I think this is a great place for him to land, to get an opportunity to learn from one of the best. I'm not saying that Ron Rivera wasn't a very good football coach. I think that Ron was a very good football coach. I think that Ron was very good for Cam, but I think it would be nice for him to see something different and to kind of see things from the bottom up as opposed to the top down. He was always the man. He's always been the man. He's always been the man. Well, when you're not the man, your struggle is a little bit different. You have to work at it. So now he's at a point where he's got to prove himself. And so he has a little chip on his shoulder, which I think will be good for him. And I'm looking forward to what he'll bring to the New England Patriots. Yeah, they're devoid of talent on the offensive side of the ball, but they still got they got the guy who they drafted last year in the first round, the wide receiver, N'Keal Harry. I believe he's there. I don't know what free agents they picked up. We'll see. I think the offense is going to be a lot different than what it's been in the past. I think they're going to be able to do a lot of things that they have not been able to do. I think the play action game will be a lot bigger in this. I think you're going to see, the read option is going to be a lot more prevalent. So I think that and I think learning from Josh and having Josh McDaniels holding him accountable, I think that's all good for Cam. So I look forward to, seeing what he's going to be able to do. And I think that New England is going to be okay with the defense they have, and with Cam Newton. If Cam comes out and he's able to stay healthy, I look forward to what they'll be able to do.
Yeah, I think it's a good find there. Of course, he's going to be under the iron fist of Bill Belichick, who treats everybody equally. He's not afraid to lace into you. So, yeah, he'll definitely be in a very disciplined environment. And I think Cam Newton, to me, has an opportunity to land a long-term deal, if not in New England, somewhere else. So I think there was no question that was an ideal landing spot for him.
Here's the next question I'll ask about this before we move on to the Dak Prescott element in all of this, because I do want to ask about that since we are bringing up all of these different quarterbacks, the deals and everything. But here's my last question about it, and it pertains to New England's offense as a whole. Sony Michel's first year in the league, he came out and he looked like a very promising young back. And then he got injured. And it could have been a season-ending injury. Turned out not to be. But he never really fully bounced back from that injury. And because of how conservative the Patriots offense has always been, with Tom Brady at quarterback and Josh McDaniels leading the way, I'm not sure if we can say that Sony Michel really ever got his fair shake last season to show what he can really do. Now that you have a quarterback like Cam coming in there, and there's going to be obviously a lot more running going on with this offense, do you all believe that we will see another element of Sony Michel's game go to another level as well in that Patriots offense?
If he can stay healthy. I mean, Sony's a good back. I got an opportunity to watch him here while he was playing. I didn't think he was the best back on Georgia that year. That when he came out with I like Nick Chubb. I love Chubb. I watched Chubb for a long time. I thought Nick Chubb was the better back, and I think it's proven to be so. With what Chubb is doing over there in Cleveland. But Sony Michel is a decent back. He just got to stay healthy. When he came in the league, he was damaged. He had a little gimpy knee his first year. So I think the way they do things, running back by committee. They have their specialists. I think they are going to be a much more run-oriented team this year. And I think they are going to have to rely on him. I think he has an opportunity to show that he can be a big-time running back in the National Football League. But like I said, I always thought he was the second best back on the year he came out on Georgia. I'd like Nick Chubb.
Well, Scott, before you answer that, let me just say this. I'm with you 100% right there, Mel. And I think a lot of people forget that we didn't really see Nick Chubb finish out at Georgia the way that he did, not just because of the variety of running backs that they had, but because of the fact that he was coming off of a very serious injury. He's coming back from a torn ACL that he suffered against the University of Tennessee during a year where if he doesn't get injured, he may very well have been taking home the Heisman Trophy that year. I think a lot of people forget that when Nick Chubb first came out at the University of Georgia, he almost made some of the UGA fans forget about the fact that Ty Gurley was injured in that freshman year, that Nick Chubb was there as a freshman, and Ty Gurley was obviously viewed as the top running back and the big man on campus. But he was electrifying and explosive coming out, and I'm not surprised that he's in Cleveland doing the great things that he's doing, and I'm honestly happy for him that he's been able to bounce back from that injury the way that he has.
Absolutely. When I see Nick Chubb, man, he was the closest thing to Barry Sanders I had seen. And a buddy of mine and I were talking, and I think it might have been Nick's sophomore year. It was before he got hurt. And he said, he asked me, who would you take, him or Leonard Fournette? I said, I'm taking Nick Chubb. He was a Leonard Fournette guy. I'm a Nick Chubb guy. The bigger backs have a problem in the National Football League because they have a bigger target. Now, I know Henry had a great year last year, and then he got paid. He just got paid the other day too. I'm not saying that I don't have anything against big backs because my favorite backs are big backs, and Eric Dickerson and Jim Brown. But in this day and age, if they make you go outside and you don't have the speed to turn that corner, they limit what you're able to do. Like Christian Okoye, he was a big back. They couldn't figure him out for the first couple of years. Then they tried, they figured out, hey, we got to make him bounce to the outside. He can't get to the outside. They neutralize that size. When you're running north and south, when a big back is running downhill, it's very, very. Nobody wants to get in front of him. Little DBs don't want to get in front of him. But Nick Chubb had that shiftiness his freshman year and his sophomore year before he got hurt. He was the closest thing to Barry Sanders I've seen. And I've always been a Nick Chubb fan, and I was very surprised when the Patriots picked Sonny Michel with that draft pick and not Nick Chubb. But Nick, he's landed in a great place for himself, and he's proven what type of back he is. Now, I watched Nick Chubb in high school. That's how long I go back with Nick Chubb.
No kidding. Well, geez, Mel, if you're telling me that Nick Chubb is like Barry Sanders for all you fantasy owners out there that are interested in a back, I'd put Nick Chubb on your list for sure. Now, I should point out to you, though, don't sleep on James White, New England, either. He's a very versatile back who can catch out of the backfield and run. So for a lot of you New England, James White's a fine player. But if you're going to sit there, Mel, and put Nick Chubb into the Barry Sanders conversation, you got me thoroughly impressed. I just said he's the closest thing I've seen to Barry Sanders. I didn't say it was Barry Sanders. It's the closest thing I've seen because they got the similar in size. They both got big legs. Both of them got their low center of gravity, shiftiness, quickness. They need a big back. They need a guy like LeGarrette Blount. They need to get another big back, to go along with Cam Newton. And I like to run the football. I like the way Tennessee plays. I think that Cam is a better quarterback than the guy they have over there at Tennessee. But I think they could do something similar to that. Just wear teams out. Wear them down. Right. In the fourth quarter, you got that big guy coming downhill, man. In the fourth quarter, you're making business decisions at that point, as far as whether or not you want to get in there and make a tackle. Well, the Lions just drafted a running back out of Georgia. The name escapes me right now that they think is going to be a fine. The Lions had to do a lot of drafting on offense. So Matt Patricia and a do-or-die year. The name escapes me, but it's Swift. There you go. DeAndre Swift. I like him. Yeah, DeAndre Swift. I like Swift. I knew somebody was going to come up with it. Thank you, Mel. That way I don't have to pull my hair out wondering who it was. Thank you. But unfortunately, I live here in Georgia, so we watch a lot of Georgia football. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, listen, they produce a lot of good running backs. Well, one of my favorite, why he's not in the Hall of Fame is beyond my wildest imagination. Why Herschel Walker is not there is anybody's guess, but that'll be for another night. I have no clue. I don't either. Yeah, I have no clue. It's one of my favorite, too. Yeah, let's stay on point with Cam Newton, though. I know that Xavier wanted to talk about that, if I may. So do you guys feel that he is an ideal fit for the New England Patriots? And could he be the long-term answer? I know they're also looking at Jared Stidham as well. But, Cam Newton, a great place to revitalize his career. And New England has a tendency to land these transformation projects and turn them into gold.
For me, here's what I'm going to say.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well, Mel. He definitely must see TV. But here's what I'm going to say as far as him possibly being the long-term answer. I want to see him actually play in the system first.
Okay.
Just simply because what we hear about the Patriots and their entire system is it's the most complicated system in the NFL, and not everyone can go there and pick up on it. And I'm not just singling Cam out individually as well. I'll give you another prime example here of where it didn't work out the way that people thought it would. And this is not the quarterback position, but it's still the Patriots system. When the Patriots traded for Chad Ochocinco Johnson, and many people thought he was going to come there and he was going to be a dynamic playmaker, not completely similar to what Randy Moss was when he arrived into town, but he thought he was going to be a lot better than he ended up being. And it ended up basically being a bust. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen with Cam. I definitely hope that that doesn't happen with Cam. But I want to see how he adjusts to this system first, especially with all of the circumstances that we're all in right now.
Right.
You have the pandemic, and the teams aren't exactly able to get out there for OTAs. We don't really know how training camps are going to look yet. You know, all of this stuff is a concern to me.
But the word I'm using, Xavier, I want to make sure I preface this as the word could, not would. So just make sure you understand. Could. All right? Go ahead, Mel.
Well, let me say this. Cam has played for a few different offensive coordinators.
Right.
And the last offensive coordinator he had, Norv Turner, I'm very familiar with Norv because Norv was the wide receiver coach when I was with the Rams. And Norv obviously went on to do great things with the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm very familiar with the offense that he ran. That was a very easy offense. I don't know if he still runs the exact same offense because things have changed now, where it's more like how it was when I was in college, where everything was based on concepts. So you either have a number system or you have a concept system. I don't know what Cam had in college, and I don't know what he had with Mike Shula. I don't know what kind of offense they were running then, whether they're using a number system or were they using a concept system. But I think that Cam will be fine. Defenses can only do so much, and offenses only do so much. There's only so much that you do. But everything is within a concept. So he can kind of familiarize himself with, okay, this play is similar to this play that we had back in Carolina, or he has to come in as a blank sheet of paper and just learn the new concept, whether it's concepts or whether it's a number system. But I believe that Cam will be able to do it because, Cam's an intelligent guy. He's no dummy. And I know he's working hard. Yeah, he doesn't have the benefit of the off season. He doesn't have the benefit of mini camps. He doesn't have the benefit of being around in the building. So, yeah, will he get out the gate a little bit slow? Probably so. Are they going to give him the entire playbook in the beginning? Probably not. They're going to find out what Cam does well. But I truly believe that they're going to be a much more run-oriented team than they have been in the past with Tom Brady. I think they probably threw the ball probably 60-65% of the time, and a lot of their throws were long handoffs. I think they're going to try to establish the run more so with Cam because the play-action game, I think, is going to be a lot more prevalent, and it's very difficult to defend. It's very difficult on those linebackers, making them have to cover a lot of ground. So I think it's going to be a different New England Patriots offense than what we've seen in the past. I don't think they're going to ask Cam Newton to do what Tom Brady was doing because a lot of that stuff that Tom Brady did, he did it at the line of scrimmage itself, and he did a lot of it because of his limited mobility. He had to get rid of the ball quick. The ball had to come out of his hands quick because he's limited mobility-wise. Well, Cam is not. He can hold on to the ball a little bit. He can buy some time with his legs. So I'm looking forward to what he's going to be able to do with this offense.
Well, don't lose sight of the fact that he has a chip on his shoulder and he's hungry, so that helps too. So I should point out that Barry Sanders, today is his 52nd birthday since we brought him up. So 52 for Barry. Where does the time go, Mel? I don't know, man. 52 for Barry. A.K.A.
You could probably still play.
Yeah, I'll bet he probably could. I want to bring up this other piece of information before we go on to our last point, all right? And I'm looking at it right in front of me now. NFLPA has reported that 72 players have tested positive for COVID-19. We'll only talk about it for a couple of minutes. We'll save it for another show. But, this is not what we've been talking about all along. Everything in the NFL is tentative, and these numbers aren't helping to cause any. So, Mel, you've been saying all along nobody should play. This certainly validates everything you've said the last several weeks.
Yeah, well, along with that, they came out with, what they were trying to figure out is what type of designation a player would get if he did get the coronavirus.
Right.
And they didn't want him to be designated with a non-football illness, because I think they don't get paid then. So now what they've done is they set up a special injury reserve for these players who contract the coronavirus, where they can put them on injury reserve for 3 weeks and bring in another player, because they don't want to have a disruption in the season. They're trying to do everything in their power to make sure they don't have a disruption in their season. Again, if this thing runs rampant, your whole offensive line gets wiped out. Because it's not just the people that test positive that you have to be concerned about. You have to be also concerned with the people who are exposed.
Oh yeah.
Who are in contact with this person. So again, I don't know how you deal with that. They're a lot smarter than I am, and I'm guessing, they're trying to figure this thing out as well. But that's going to be the issue there. If you get your whole offensive line, then, you got to bring in a whole new offensive line. And then, you got Tom Brady back there with a bunch of guys that just came in off the street. Now, mind you, some of these guys may have been in your camp. I don't know if they're going to, allow them to carry more additional people on the roster or anything like that. But, some of these guys may have been in camp, but they didn't get a lot of reps. They're not getting a full camp this year. They're only playing 2 preseason games. There's not going to be a lot of snaps. There was no mini camp. There's no OTAs. So these guys that are coming in, they're not very familiar with these offenses and the blocking schemes. So, the defense, it's going to be very difficult for teams offensively if they have something happen to, the offensive line or something like that. If something happened to the offensive line where they're having to put, 3rd, 4th string guys out there, guys that are just coming in off the street out there to block for these marquee quarterbacks. So I'm interested to see what happens if something like that were to happen.
Yeah, don't hedge your bet, though, Mel, on those other 2 preseason games. If I were a bet man, I'd say the number goes down to 0. Xavier, you can talk about this for about a minute or two, then we'll go on to our last topic of the night. Go ahead, get your 2 cents in on COVID-19.
Well, I agree with Mel 100% on this. Scott, you know exactly where I stand on this. Since day one that we've learned this pandemic has started, I have been one of the hugest proponents on this network, and probably one of the hugest proponents, period, on these sports leagues keeping it shut down. I understand that money has to be made, but what we need to take into account is that health, well-being, and lives are on the line here. And you brought up the Tom Brady factor and him having to learn the Bucs offense and not really having time to really sit down and really figure this thing out and get out there in OTAs, and we don't know what training camp's going to look like. Teams haven't been able to have mini camps. I'd like to bring up this fact to everybody right now. He plays in Tampa Bay, which is in the state of Florida, where our numbers are surging outrageously right now, to say the least. And it doesn't look like they're going to slow down anytime soon.
That's true.
And this is becoming a problem nationwide. It's still a problem worldwide. And, yeah, I don't believe that these teams should be playing. I don't believe the league should play. And I'll say this again. The MLB and the NBA are going to determine if football is played in the fall of this year.
Bear in mind, we're only talking July 16th, and we're at 72. I wouldn't even begin to venture what the next number was going to be. So I just thought I'd throw that out there anyhow, since it's in front of me. Let's go on to a team that needs a new name. With the old one, the Washington Redskins are no more. We don't know what the Washington Redskins' new name will be, and time will tell. I know they're having some issues with trademark because a guy has snapped up quite a few of the main ones, but we'll leave a TBD on that. But one number that I can tell you is that 15 former female employees alleged sexual harassment by Washington executives. These allegations go from 2006 to 2019 with Daniel Snyder's tenure as a team owner. Well, Xavier, you wanted to talk about it initially. We'll let you run with it. Mel will take over, and then we'll wrap up the broadcast. Go ahead, Xavier.
Yes, once again, ladies and gentlemen, these are all just allegations. These have not come out to be factually true yet. So we just want to make sure that we point that out. But this is a developing, breaking news story. As Scott said, 15 women who previously worked for the Washington Redskins organization, they should now only be known as the Washington football team because they are no longer known as the Redskins. They have alleged sexual harassment and verbal abuse by former scouts and members of Daniel Snyder's inner circle, according to the Washington Post. Now, among those who were accused of misconduct are former Director of Pro Personnel Alex Santos, former Assistant Director of Pro Personnel Richard Mann II, and former radio play-by-play announcer Larry Michael. All three of those members departed the organization within the past week. Now, there have been no allegations said to be against Daniel Snyder himself or the former general manager of the Washington NFL team, Bruce Allen. But there's also another story out there of Daniel Snyder and the Redskins organization, and these are allegations as well, of them possibly paying off NFL referees during games too. And all I have to say in regard to that story is you didn't do a good job doing that if you were paying them off indeed, because we saw how pathetic that record was last year and how pathetic the record has been for the better part of a decade now, and since Daniel Snyder has owned the team in general anyway. But these are both two very serious accusations and sets of allegations that are going on here. And at this point, with everything that is going on with that organization, Daniel Snyder should just sell the team.
Yeah, well, now it explains why Larry Michael resigned. I didn't know why he did, but now you've certainly shed some light to it. So, again, you never know what's going on with the dysfunction with the Redskins. It's been going on for a lot of years. But go ahead, Mel. What's your take?
It's been going on ever since Daniel Snyder bought that team.
Oh yeah,
bought that franchise. He's a young guy with a lot of money, and he's an arrogant guy. Thinks he knows everything, and the franchise has just gone downhill ever since he purchased the team. And like I said, if they paid off referees, I don't know what they're paying them off for, because it certainly didn't go. Nothing went in their favor last year.
That's true.
Yeah, I read that article, or read about that. Well, actually, I saw something. I think I was watching something this morning, and they said they had some breaking news that was going to be coming out about the Washington Redskins. And I actually saw that article, the Harrassment article, later on. And what it really, in this time right now, what we're dealing with, it goes back to what we've been talking about, kind of with the Black Lives Matter thing, where you're just talking about, just white privilege. And this is what this is. I mean, these are guys, a bunch of rich white guys in there think they can do whatever it is that they want to do, and the kind of things that they're saying to these women and the threats that they're making against these women if they did things. And, it was even to the point where the women would, I was reading an article, something that they said about girls would walk up the stairs and trainers would be underneath the stairs looking at the women's skirt and stuff like that. I mean, so Daniel Snyder is not blameless in all this. He had to know that this was going on,
right?
Because if the women are talking about it in the office, he has to hear something. Somebody had to have said something to him and say, "Hey, this is what's going on. It'd be nice if you did something about it." And he didn't do anything about it. So he's not blameless in this thing. And I agree with you. He should go ahead and sell the franchise, because he's doing the city of the fans of Washington. He's doing them a disservice with the product that he's put out on the field, and then just him being on the wrong side of history as far as changing the team's name. He had an opportunity to be on the right side of this deal when he first bought the franchise, but no, he dug his foot in and he said you could put it in caps. He would never change the name of the Washington football team. So it just tells you how he felt. He just felt that he was entitled, he's privileged, and he could do whatever it is that he wanted to do. So I hope that they put some pressure on him, as what happened with with the Carolina Panthers owner when stuff came out. He had to sell the football team.
Right,
if I'm not mistaken, that was the reason why he got rid of. He had to sell the football team, Jerry Richardson, and they took down his statue in front of the stadium. Now I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's what they did.
Right.
But I think there should be some pressure on him, because this is a different day. You just can't do that. I mean, with especially now in the climate that we have going on right now, and the Me Too movement. We had that been going on for a while. With all that, and the Me Too movement has been going on for a long time. So if he didn't do anything about it, as long as the Me Too movement has been going on, if he didn't do anything about it, then he just didn't care. He was okay with it. So he's complicit. So he should go.
Well, let me just say this:
Scott, before you chime back in, I want to say this right now. To a point that Mel just said, even though there are no allegations against Dan Snyder, as you said, Mel, there's no way that he didn't know that this was going on in his organization. You know what this situation really reminds me of? It reminds me of what was going on back in Penn State in the early 2010s, where that whole scenario there. Joe Paterno may have not exactly been involved with what was going on. He may have not been one of the suspects throughout all of that, but as we later learned, he was knowledgeable of what was going on, and he didn't do anything about it. That's what that's the closest thing that this reminds me of.
Well, I mean, I think, Joe Paterno thing, I think he did do something about it. I think he did take it to somebody, but, whoever he reported to see didn't do anything about it. But, I mean, Joe had an opportunity to do something about it as well. But, again, like you say, it's exactly, I mean, it's his team. When coaches, when teams, NCAA teams, when they bring these penalties against these sanctions against these teams, they say that the head coach should have known about it. If he didn't know about it, he should have known about it. If something happened under his watch, he should have known about it. Daniel Snyder's on this football team for a very, very long time. Obviously, this is the type of culture that he kind of allowed to manifest itself within his organization. There's no way he can say that he didn't know about it, but there's no way he didn't know about it. Somebody had said something to him at some point in time about this, and he did nothing about it.
Right. I mean, all I'll add to the whole thing is, number one, if the allegations date back to 2006, why didn't somebody bring it up way earlier than now? And number two, we're bringing these allegations up at a time where in the franchise they're under pressure to change the name. And the only reason Snyder's doing it is because of money, sponsorship. And let's take that a little bit further, okay? That here's a guy that charged his fans admission to training camp when he bought it. If you couldn't get off to a poor start by charging admission to training camp, only to see the direction of this franchise, then tell me what that means. But you're right. I think he should sell the team, but the name change is all predicated because of sponsorship. So, but I don't know. Sometimes I wonder about allegations that go back the better part of 14 years. If they're 5-10 years ago, but now people are coming up. I don't know, but I'm not judge, jury, or whatever to go that far. But the word dysfunction summarizes a lot of what the regime and the tenure of the Dan Snyder ownership has been. I think that's been the constant norm. Don't you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it takes women a little bit of time to speak up on these things because they don't know what's going to happen to them.
Right.
I think right now is the perfect time for them to be able to speak up. It's no different than, what was going on with Larry Nassar. I mean, it took a long time before women spoke up. The gymnastic women spoke up. The gymnasts spoke up against him and what he was doing, the abuse, how he was abusing those women down there. And the Caroli, family, what they were doing down there on the ranch. And so it takes time, and they do it in their due time. And, now it seems to be the perfect time because people are listening. People are willing to listen right now because there's so much right in this country, but there's still so much wrong, and we could be a lot better. I mean, yes, it's a great country that we live in, but it could be better. We've all worked in workplace environments and, have heard the lewd type of talk that people may, things that people may say when women come by, or whether it's just whistling or howling or whatever it is, whatever kind of noises that men may make when a nice looking lady comes by. Well, we never think of that as being harassment, but that is, and that makes that woman feel uncomfortable. So, the NFL is a male dominated, big egos, a lot of testosterone going around in those buildings. Okay. So it doesn't surprise me. So if you as an owner, if you don't explicitly say that it's not okay, then you're complicit. You're saying it is okay. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll end the broadcast on that note. Xavier, anything you want to say to Mel before we let everybody go out there and talk about what they represent?
Well, the last thing I want to say on this story is former Washington, now San Francisco 49ers left tackle Trent Williams is probably somewhere sipping on a nice cold glass of Southern style sweet tea.
Well, then I guess that's a good way to put a bow on this broadcast. So with that said, okay, Xavier McKnight, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at XTMCKNIGHII. The two I's at the end are both capitalized. You can follow me on Instagram at XMCKNIGH22. You can send me a friend request to Facebook as well as a follow request on LinkedIn, both by just typing in Xavier McKnight.
Go ahead, Mel. I'm handing off the rock to you.
I can be found on all the social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Mel Farr Jr., email melfarjr@gmail.com, and you can check out what we're doing in the area for the youth at melfar.org.
Okay. And, of course, Xavier McKnight, as I alluded to before, is my co-host on The Real and the Rare. You are listening to Sports Exchange on the WSAN Network. All right, as far as we're concerned, you can reach us at Twitter, at Tribune South. Did you mention your Twitter thing, Mel?
Yep, all of them at Mel Farr Jr.
All right, well, there you go. All right, so for us, again, it's at Tribune South. Facebook, you can follow us at South Florida Tribune. Instagram, South Florida Tribune Gets It Done. I have a YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And LinkedIn, Scott Morganroth. If you send me a connect request, I'll be more than happy to accept it. These broadcasts can be found on southfloridatribune.com or wherever you get your podcasts. So, guys, well done. I look forward to having both of you on again for a later broadcast. I thought you guys did a fantastic job. Then again, every time I bring you on, you do anyway, so that's probably second nature. But meanwhile, I hope everybody out there is please be safe, mask up, and take whatever precautions that you need. Take COVID-19 seriously because the numbers don't lie. Some people may want to say that they do, but let's not kid ourselves. This is, we've said time and time again, okay, this is an enemy that we don't know, and there's a lot of work to be done here to get this thing straightened out. So, but meanwhile, on behalf of Xavier McKnight, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Man Mouth, thanking you for joining us here on the Sports Exchange. Good night, everybody.